for you, maybe 20 minutes or so, and then we can do a Q&A after that if that works. So this first poem is actually about Charleston, and I wrote this when I first moved here. I live in Charleston, South Carolina, where the sidewalks scream on Saturday nights and the corners rotate budding musicians with skin-tight dreams, where strings of pearls search for salvation, then sweat out their frustrations on the backs of rooftops, where the homeless sprout like weeds through concrete seeking $2, a handshake, and a little bit of sunshine. The humidity, it chokes you out of your breath, but you manage to speak to the spit-shine waiters who serve $95 bottles of wine. And just 2 blocks away, a $5 pitcher of liquid gold spills on the canvas of sticky floors, and love lingers on cobblestone streets in narrow alleyways, and the smell of sex is the foundation for first and last impressions. I live in Charleston, where sea-seen people gasp for air from knee-deep bills and dirt-cheap thrills, and those with no sense of history's melody sink with the songs of the city's slaves. And the poets, we scrape stanzas off of streetlights, and if we scream loud enough, maybe someone will hear. I live in Charleston. Thank you. So, I'm gonna sit down. Yeah, that's cool. So an interesting thing about me is that I have a speech impediment. And I've had a speech impediment my whole life. Actually, when I was a little kid, I remember being in speech therapy classes and would stutter a lot, and they would tell me to talk slower, and I would stutter slower, so it was just a thing. But it's so interesting that I am doing things like this where I talk to people, and when I have a platform like this, I'm smooth, but if it's a one-on-one conversation, that's when I stutter. But so I had to come to grips with that part of myself. I did not like that a lot when I was a kid, but now learning to love it, and this is about that. This is called Self-Portrait. When I was in the 8th grade, I wore baggy pants and my book bag on my chest because I was not bold enough to throw the monkey off my back. Inside of the backpack was a lack of confidence weighing me down. I had not found my voice. This is the portrait of a black boy in bloom, the brown-eyed baby whose birth's purpose was to unearth poems. When I was in the 9th grade, I became brilliant at being silent and building up barriers, lost in the soundproof walls of my mind, trying to find my voice. This is a portrait of a bashful teenager in bloom, blind to the way he was bruising his inner strength, searching and searching for a voice. Then poetry saved me. Poetry brought me back to my core. Poetry blossomed the boy who didn't know he had wings. Poetry made me sing. When I was sitting down to write this poem, I brushed off any bad feelings about myself because I broke free from the monkey on my back and unpacked a beautiful, booming, blissful, and brave voice. This is the portrait of me now. Thank you. You all having a good time? All right, so this poem explains itself. It's called Mahogany. Who decided to call us black and white? When I look at my skin, I don't see black, I see brown. Brown, like the color of sand, a brilliant tan that needs no sun. Brown, like the mahogany tree bark grounded in the summer, whose green leaves make the transition into fall, coffee stained by the autumn's cool breeze. Who decided to call us black and white? When I look at my wife, I don't see white, I see brown, just a lighter shade than mine. Brown is the cinnamon that colors her iris. Brown are the arms that wrap around me during a bronze sunset. Brown are the layered bricks of our home's foundation. Who decided to call us black and white? When I look at all of you, I see shades of brown, a sea of one color, ripples of love, floating along a sea change. There are so many words used to divide us, to fool us into seeing ourselves through foggy lenses. We are more than a box-check statistic. We are more than a census. I am not black or white. I am awake. I'm really fascinated by the way language is used to divide us, and I think those two terms are really interesting to me when you really think about it. If you grow up thinking somebody's black, or somebody's white, it's like an opposite, and it's not true. So I think kids have it right when they're like, oh, it's like a brown kid or something, But, people don't use words like that. So this is sort of written in that same vein. This is called Beautiful. The word black, by definition, means the absence of light. But I am much more than a shadow. Yes, sometimes blackness is the darkness that haunts unenlightened minds, and sometimes people talk about me as if I am a cold night sky without the spark of a bonfire, but being black, by definition, is luminary, because being black is beautiful. The spirit of freedom, by definition, is the absence of war, but freedom has to be fought for. We've lost too many battles tiptoeing around landmines of ignorance. There are bombs of broken ash buried in the blood of enslaved hearts. But the definition of freedom is boundless because the spirit of freedom is beautiful. To be human, by definition, is to be flesh and bone, but our flesh has been a bone of contention. Even love is unsafe from the fires of hatred, where judgment burns our skin with scars, but being human, by definition, is not without pain, but being human is still beautiful. All right, let's stand up. All right, this is an interesting poem that I wrote. Thinking about the vanity of the world, I'm a part of it as well, taking selfies and posting it, things like that. I've only taken one selfie and posted it, but it's kind of an interesting world that we're in right now. This is sort of a reflection on that. It's called, "And We Are the Flawless." God took a selfie before the Big Bang and noticed the sadness in his eyes. Loneliness covered his face in darkness. Depression awakened the need for light. Heaven was a tiny house with just enough room for God to meditate and dream of a universe devoid of vanity. Soon, space expanded from a single snapshot, and time took a holy moment to reveal itself, and God finally felt beautiful. We liked everything he posted on his profile, the mountains, the constellations, the birds, the trees, but we grew to be clusters of galaxies, slowly drifting apart because of our gravitational pull towards stardom. We obsess over ourselves as if we are not a mirror image of intelligent design, as if our brains are incapable of infinite wisdom. But our spirit is the synonym of perfection, and we are the flawless reflection of a photo of the universe cocooned in skin without any filters. All right, I'm having fun. This is cool. So, I don't really have any light poems, and I apologize for that. So I am going to read a poem that I wrote for Emmanuel AME. I was asked to write this poem the day after the shooting. Obviously not sleeping the night before, things like that, but I had to write this in a couple days for the city paper for them to publish it. This is called Black Cloth. Racism. Let us no longer walk in your shoes. You are a traveler of darkness, a walker of shadows, cloaking yourself in a black cloth like the Grim Reaper, and arming your soul with the tools of a terrorist, a misguided soldier who's trying to start a war. My sisters, heaven was as close as your breath that night. You came to Mother Emmanuel to worship in the glow of God and speak the light that flows from love. How beautiful of him to hear your words and lift you into the arms of Christ. My brothers, you walked toward heaven with focus, even when your shoes were stained with the dirt of intolerance. A black cloth lay silent at Clementa's seat, resting under a single rose. It was taken from our city's soil where seeds of faith continue to grow. Charleston, I see heaven in your tears and feel the weight of sadness in your voice. I've seen strangers hold hands as the sun wraps us in unbearable heat. I've watched children of contradiction come together for the unity of the holy city. But South Carolina, 9 members of your family are now in heaven, and you have to confront the reality of racism, the dusk of pain, the lightlessness of the dawn. And I would rather hang a black cloth on a flagpole than give the Confederate flag another glimpse of the sun. Sorry, I should do a love poem. Let's lighten the mood. Let me take some water here. Oh, nice. Oh, man. All right, love poem. Just when you think your heart only beats for the dark, a light overtakes silence and a jazz band steps on stage. The music swirls around your glass, each note gets under your blood, and you are drunk with love. You've heard this song before, but not like this. It's like the singer knows your kiss, and each note is impossible to miss. Hold your applause, because this might last forever. Pause and admire the encore that's happening at this very moment. It taps you on the shoulder after you've danced with complacency, and suddenly you are face to face with a woman who placed an echo into soundproof walls, who's never played an instrument like this before. Just when you think your heart only beats for the dark, you find yourself lightheaded, wrapping your mind around the wonders of the music and waiting for the miracle to happen. Because how do you stand still when a woman is an earthquake shaking the ground beneath your feet? How do you act cool when she's a volcano erupting fire in your veins? How do you tiptoe around the remains of the past that lay sleeping in the darkened corners of your mind? How did you find yourself drowning in desire when the whole world is suffering a deep, long drought? Why do we doubt love when its truth is never hiding? And when did she start to remind me of the red sun rising? What are the questions that I'm afraid of, and how do I get to the answers? Thank you. All right, so I guess I'll read a couple more. I mean, I don't know what the time is. Yeah. Okay, so, all right, so this is a poem sort of about, I do a lot of web design, so I'm writing a lot of code, and I think it's interesting to write code and write poetry. They seem like opposites, but maybe they aren't, you know? This is called Code. If I write lines of poems like I write lines of code, no comma would be out of place, and every quotation mark left open would throw the whole piece off center. Maybe coding is in fact poetry. Maybe life is in fact poetry, and we are the result of a universal code where X's and O's are fingers and toes. the perfect design of human form. I define myself in high definition after years of sleepwalking through a fuzzy dream. I've turned on computers to turn off my mind. I'm unplugging myself to find a connection. Where does our electricity come from? Maybe the light that's inside is designed to hide our shadows, and we are wasting our time placing darkness where it does not belong. Maybe at this hour, we should turn on the power we are born with and search for more bandwidth to ignite a network of our net worth and treat people like poetry, writing and rewriting code until our history is recorded. And I'll read one more for you. Then we can do a Q&A and I can drink some wine.
But you have that long trip to go.
Yeah, no, so it's a long trip, yeah, I'm a little scared, yeah. So this is one that I read and wrote for the Women's March here in Charleston. Kathleen, you were there. What I loved about that experience was it was just a celebration of the feminine, which I think is a beautiful thing. And being a feminist means you believe in equal rights for women and men. So this is a poem that I wrote for that. It's called A Woman's Hands Are the Hands of God. I am a feminist because our bodies are tattooed with the fingerprints of Mother Nature. I am a feminist because a woman's hands hold the spirit of comfort the way the sun carries the burden of warmth. I am a feminist because my mother was with me for my first breath, and Mother Earth will be my bed rest in death. I am a feminist because the voice of a woman is much more than a siren's song. It is the voice of the wind that carries wings, the tides of the ocean, each bird that sings. I am a feminist because my father taught me to respect the goddess, to be a servant to the women who should know their power, even when their feet are weary from marching, their eyes exhausted from crying. All women should know their power. I actually might read one more short one that I meant to read and I haven't gotten to it yet. Okay, yeah, I can do that. So this is called The Last Word, and it's a bit of a prayer. One day, someone will write the last poem about injustice, and it will become our new national anthem. Only history books will hold the memory of hatred, and museums will be built for the artifacts of our awakening. One day, someone will have the last conversation about politics because we realized there were problems that our politicians couldn't fix. Policies not built to cure our addiction to division, no governing body that compared to the bodies of the enlightened. One day, this poem won't be a manifesto for dreamers. We will wake up from nightmares of our own making and reject our attraction to darkness, our love affair with conflict. That's that one. Yeah.